Hello, and welcome to another bite-sized workshop by myself, Raymond Castrogiovanni. We're looking at numerology, and we're looking at how numerology can be used in divination and what it means to us as individuals, but also how we can enhance the energy of numbers to improve our lives and tapping into the energy of the cosmos, tapping into the energy of the universe, and knowing that we're part of that. And we've had two bite-sized workshops that have been an introduction into this, and now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. We're now getting to what the numbers mean, what they are, how you can work with the numbers, and what you can get from the numbers. And we have to remember that there are many schools of numerology, so I'm going to look at it in the way that I work with numerology and what I take from those different schools to make numerology work for me when I'm working with guidance with individuals or I'm working with divination, and I incorporate it within the readings that I do. So you should do more research. You should look at other practitioners of numerology and read as much as you can and then draw your own conclusions. I am simply giving you my insight to numbers. So the number one, the first of the numbers, and we have 9 numbers, and we're going to look at the rest as we go through them. And numerology exists between the numbers 1 to 9. The number 0 isn't counted in numerology, though it's very important because it adds value to numbers. However, there is another section which isn't part of the 1 to 9, which is the number 11. And then beyond that, there are compound numbers 22, 33, 44, and so on. But we're really going to focus on the 1 to 9 at the moment. So let's take the number 1. So the number 1 is the first of the numbers. It is also associated to the first sign of the zodiac and the first house of the zodiac. So depending on your date of birth, your numerology is arrived at by adding together the numbers in your birthday. And it's calculated as a very simple sum, and it doesn't matter whether you put a plus in between each number that exists in your birthday and do it on a long line and add them together, come to a final number, add that together until you get a number between 1 and 9. So that's the simple way of explaining it. Or you could write it out like an old-fashioned sum, so you could put the first day of the month that you were born in at the top, the month that you were born in below that, and the year that you were born in below that, and you make a sum there, and the number that you come to there, you add it together until you get a number between 1 and 9. The same thing. Whichever way around you do it, you will arrive at the same number. So numerology is also created out of letters. And you can find the value of numerology in your name, but I'm going to come to that in another workshop. So we're going to concentrate on the number 1 just as a number, just as your birth number, your life path number. So if you're a 1, the associations to you are dynamic energy, the beginning, youthfulness, excitement, exuberance, fire. Why fire? Because 1 is associated both to the sun and to Mars. And it also has days of weeks that it's associated to in a positive way. And if we follow the practice of numerology, we find that some days will work better depending on how the numerology that you have as a life path number and some decisions that you're going to make. And I don't want to create you being ineffectual and not making a decision on a day that isn't harmonious with your number. Just bear in mind, when you're making choices, work with the energy of your number. So, what are those days? Well, Sunday is a 1 day because it is the day of the sun. And the other one is Tuesday because it's associated to Mars. So that's not obvious because Tuesday doesn't tell us straight away in English that it's Tuesday. But if we take it from the Latin, Martedi, Mars Day, then we know that the association is there. So what do we know about what that means? Well, in astrology, the sun is associated to every star sign because it passes through every star sign, but its main association is with Leo. But Mars is associated to 2 other constellations, Aries, which it's assigned to, but traditionally it was assigned to Scorpio and still is to some extent, though Scorpio now has Pluto as well as Chiron associated to it as well. So the Mars is less of a strength in Scorpio than it has in Aries. So we think about the values of the energy of the Sun and the energy of Mars, the energy of Aries. When we think about somebody who has a numerology of 1, it's freshness, it's beginning, it's starting, it's making things happen. So we put all those qualities into the energy of number 1. So if you're born on the first day of the month, that is one part of your numerology. The whole of your date of birth creates the whole of your numerology, and they may be different. Because your numerology may add up to 6, 7 or 8, but the day that you were born on may have been the first day of the month. So you don't have 2 numerologies, you have 1 numerology, but also your birthday has an energy too. Now in some schools, it is only the day that you're born on. But for me, and a lot of other schools of numerology, it is the whole of the date of birth that is significant and that is important. So let's look at what number 1 means. Excitement, vibrance, achievement, power. Those are some of the positive aspects that are there. If we look at some of the negative things that we associate to the number 1, is an inability to listen to what other people's opinions are, to be so direct, it's impossible to make changes or move in another direction. And that's why the subtleties of all the numbers become important. Now, somebody that just happens to be, let's say, a double 1, because the whole of the date of birth is 1, the day that they're born on is a 1 as well. What we'll see in there is a concentration of the energy of the number 1. So what does it mean to be number 1? It means even though psychologically you're not necessarily aware of this, your waking life isn't necessarily aware of this, but what is everything behind you and all those subtleties that come in from society and life cause you to try and achieve the first in everything, and the first becomes very important. And that can be great, but it can also be a negative because it can hold us back from actually having a whole rounded approach to life as well. But generally, let's work with the positive energies. So, number 1, colours are associated to it as well. The colours red and black are associated to the number 1, and that fits in with the energy of Mars and a little bit of the Sun energy coming through there as well. The other thing about the energy of the number 1 is it's about being very much an individual, and sometimes being an individual can be lonely. So one of the things that ones have to learn very often is that ability to share and to be part of other things, and not always to strive too hard to go ahead of everybody else and sort of fit within the group as much as they can. But yes, it is true, ones are natural leaders, ones go out of the way to sort of make things happen and create. And perhaps that's the great quality that we will take from the number 1, is the ability to create. Which reminds me that the tarot card that's associated to number 1 is the Magician. There are other cards associated to number 1, but the energy of the Magician, the energy of Aries, the energy of the Sun, you know straight away, because the number 1 is there, even if you are doing things that feel as if it's just you, if you have that numerology 1, feeling as if you are isolated and you have to take on the whole world. Part of being a number 1 is actually creating and making things work. And then you can add to that and take from it the energy. Remember, you're associated to the Sun, and the Sun passes through every constellation of the zodiac. So if you're a 1, it doesn't have to be something that you do on your own. It doesn't have to be something that you are always the individual. Think about that energy of the Sun passing through those constellations, and you can be having partnerships, relationships, building things and working with others to make things better. And that's the power of the number 1. There's also youthfulness there, and that youthfulness sometimes negates a problem, because if you're youthful and enthusiastic and people are saying to you, no, you can't do this, you can draw them back and you can sort of say, actually, anything's possible. And perhaps that's the power of the energy of number one. Anything is possible. So this